Hi guys, welcome back to the Pharma Daily. So we have another podcast ready for you, and we have a huge guest lined up today, whose name is Mr. Nagesh Nama. And luckily, we have cracked another CEO on the podcast. So he's a guy who owns his own company, and he has many talents. Not that he's only on YouTube or making help for people who are trying to do their own quality things regarding the pharmacy background or the biotech or the medical devices background, but also he is available for students and the youngsters like us to train us and to motivate us to become something great in our own field. Okay, so we are here to ask a lot of questions from him and try to get some motivation and inspiration about the pharmacy field. So I would not take much time. I'd let him speak today more. So Nagesh sir, first of all, thank you for being on our podcast. I just want you to introduce yourself to our audience first of all, and then we'll trouble you with lots of questions and queries.
Um, Mitali, I am very glad to be here. Thank you for having me on this podcast. My name is Nagesh Nama. I am the CEO of two companies. One is xLM and the other one is ValiMation. We are both companies are based out of Jacksonville, Florida. We have offices in Pennsylvania, the second office, and also we have offices in India, Mumbai as well as Bengaluru. So we have offices there also. We primarily work for the life sciences companies. What I mean is pharmaceutical, biotech, as well as medical device companies. The customers are all over the world. We started in the US about 1996. So that's when I incorporated my first company. Then after that, I've done worked on projects in Europe, South America, Asia, that includes Japan, China, India. We have done work, Australia. So except Africa, we have done a lot of work. What kind of work, right? So
Right.
basically, I started ValiMation long time ago, and I got interested in software testing. So
Okay.
we not only did software testing, we also did software development. So what kind of software? So this was mostly on the drug manufacturing side. If
Okay.
you have heard about products like Listerine,
Yes.
Neosporin, Polysporin, so that are some of the products that where we actually designed the software, designed the control system, designed the human machine interface, all the reporting that's needed to go to the higher level systems. That's just an example. That was long time ago. That's how I started my career and established ValiMation to provide these kind of services. Build the control systems, write the code that actually controls the machines, validate it because it's all a pharmaceutical product. So validate it. Then that's how I started. Then obviously moved into other areas like IT, labs, clinical trials. But my roots are in pharmaceutical manufacturing. That's how I started.
Okay. Okay. But before you even started pharma, we want to know where are you from? How was your childhood? And how did you get into learning pharmacy, like degrees or where you were? What was your college and everything? We want to know
Yep.
everything from the starting.
Yep. I was born in Bengaluru.
Okay.
So I'm definitely a citizen of India, born in Bengaluru. That was a long time ago. And I got my mechanical engineering degree in Bangalore or Bangalore University. Then after that, I came to the US to do my master's. That was in University of Massachusetts, UMass. That's in Massachusetts, obviously. And, I got my master's there. Then I did work for a consulting company out of Boston for about 4 years. That's where I got exposure to all the different pharmaceutical applications. I managed multiple projects for multiple clients, and doing software testing or software validation in manufacturing. That was my overall scope. Worked on facility expansions, worked on new facilities, all kinds of operations, packaging, manufacturing, and mostly in the pharma, it's batch manufacturing, but I've done both batch and continuous manufacturing. And also, that's how my career got started. So I got exposure to manufacturing controls, and I have my degree in manufacturing engineering, right? But what I studied was not what I did as an engineer. It gave me a good foundation, because in masters it was mainly software, right? Because even though I am a mechanical engineering from India and did masters in manufacturing engineering, most of it was to do with software simulations, software modeling. Even though it was in manufacturing, I didn't really do hands-on manufacturing. But
Okay.
when I started my career, right,
Right.
I started working for big companies. If you
Okay.
heard of Violating, which is part of Pfizer now, or
Okay.
Novo Nordisk, you must have all heard of all
Yes.
these names. Novo Nordisk,
Yes.
so these are some of the company. Fujisawa, that's a Japanese company, and Warner Lambert, which is now Johnson and Johnson. Now it's Kenvue. So these are the big brand name companies I ended up working for on larger projects. So
Mm-hmm.
I started as an engineer, then quickly become a project manager, and started because the last step is two types of validation, three.
Right.
One is equipment validation, control systems validation, process validation. Right? Typically, when you
Right.
build a new facility or a new piece of equipment, you need to go through all these three before we can start using in manufacturing. So my
Right.
focus was only the control system validation, where I got exposure to how to test these complex control systems, the human machine interface, the reporting. So I got exposure to all these different types of activities. But I was very keen as an engineer, even though I did not have strong background in controls. I quickly picked up, on my own. I picked up and I became a project manager. I ended up teaching my team also, and validation was very new to me, and I also picked up that I could easily read the code. If you look at controllers, the software that's actually drives, or the code that drives the controllers, it's very archaic. It's called ladder logic. It's very
Okay.
cryptic. It's almost like assembly language. Okay.
Okay.
So I had to pick up that and also learn to how the software communicates with your human machine interface.
Right.
So that's how my journey began. And what was key to my success is, my ability to learn fast and also have that childlike inquisitiveness, right? So I
Right.
always wanted to learn new things. So that really gave me a head start. Very quickly moved up in within my company. My previous employer established a new branch for them in Pennsylvania. That was within 3 years after I joined, and I was right out of school. So I
Right.
established that within 3 years. Then I decided to move on and start something on my own. My wife was really motivated me to say that, you always keep talking about it. Why don't you start something on my own? When you are so young, sometimes you're stupid also. You don't think of all the consequences,
Right.
you don't think of consequences. You're very bold, right?
Yes.
You are bold, and my wife supported me. So for me, I didn't think much, so I quit my job. I picked up the phone, told my boss, they know I'm going to quit. He was surprised. He said, what's
Right.
going on here? Can we entice you? Can we pay you more? I said, no, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to take some time off and figure out what I want to do.
Okay.
So then I have no idea how to start a company, how
Right.
to go about building a company, how to hire people, how to go about getting projects, right? I have
Right.
no idea all this,
That's the
because
biggest question.
and a new country too. It's not like
Yes.
India, right? India, a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
not like
connections.
India. Yes.
Here, I mean, I didn't have any connections. I mean, of course, I had friends, but
Yes.
very few are entrepreneurs, right? Everybody
Right.
works for somebody else.
Yes. Definitely.
So that was the best decision I made. I was 28, like I said. I figured out how to do everything, like from website building, accounting, contracts, hiring people, sales, figuring out the projects, and started with a very small project, for what is Johnson and Johnson Ortho Biotech, like
Okay.
a $20,000 project. It is not big at all, but we started in 1998 doing work for them. Even today we do work for Johnson and Johnson, so we have done work for them in at least 40 plus locations worldwide since then.
All right.
So was it clear to me when I started? No, I was just want to do something on my own. I mean, that was the only goal I had, and my
Right.
wife supported me. And I have learned so much because I work for myself. Like, I started the companies and did it, establishes offices in Bangalore, then I moved it, then it's in Mumbai and Bangalore again. But all this I could do whatever I wanted to do, because I am the boss, right? I take the
Right.
risk. I am the boss. It is so funny. Once there was this gentleman from India who was a very senior engineer, controls engineer, like
Okay.
a project manager, actually. I mean, he came from the controls background, was a project manager, worked for big companies in India. Then I hired him, but he did not guess my age. That time we did not have video conferencing, right? Like this, right?
Right.
So when he came to the US, I met him for the first time. He just fell off his chair. He said, "Wow, I'm going to report to you like you're 28 years old."
So he
He
was
was
elder
almost
than
he
you.
was almost 45. He was, and
Oh my
India,
gosh.
you have that age thing, right?
Yes,
US, it's
definitely.
easy. India, you still have that. Your boss is always older than you, typically,
Yes.
things like that. Now
Right.
it has changed, obviously. I think that's how I began. Then one thing led to another. Explored many areas within validation, software development, software products. This is my third company, xLM. I did start another company called Abacus BPM around
Okay.
2000, 2007. Then started building some products. Then, if you remember, 2009, 2010, the market really crashed. So
Right.
that was not very kind to me. Then
Okay.
I take a pause. I shut down that company. Then again start XLM. Whatever work I did, I rolled it into XLM. But I took a 3 to 4 year pause.
All
Then I
right.
started XLM. So there's not been a single day when I get up that I am tired or I'm frustrated. I have a lot of energy. I'm almost 60 years old, but I can work like a kid. That's because of I'm highly motivated. I want to achieve what I want to achieve, right? And
Okay.
I love what I do. So that's left me. Yeah, I mean, you won't believe it. I have crisscrossed the world because
Right.
of except Africa, every continent, Africa and Antarctica, every
Okay.
continent I've been to, and met people from like all over the world, from
Right.
Australia to Middle East, Amman, Jordan, for example, Brazil, you name it. I've been to
All right.
Europe, many countries in Europe, mostly Western Europe, many countries in Western Europe, from Italy to Germany. I've been, US also. I have traveled many, many states within the United States. Um, I'm not trying to boast or anything. I just want your audience to know I did not have a solid
Who
plan.
is talking to them? The audience needs to know that they must watch this podcast repetitively because, okay, so not boasting again, of course, and not flattering you, but I am overwhelmed and I am so thankful. We tried to, connect back and forth. This podcast was very difficult for me, guys, to crack. And now I know why, because the difficult things you can't get so easy. I didn't know what kind of man I'm going to get a chance to speak with. That's why God kept on making me chase, and I am so glad that today finally I got the opportunity to talk to sir and watch him live like this. And I am learning so much. You guys want to watch you guys need to watch the whole podcast and need to learn each and every bite of things that he's telling us. Sir, so many things. I have grabbed so many questions and so many doubts out of what you told just now. Like we started from the beginning, you said that you've done one of your graduation degrees in India and then you moved to USA for your post graduation. My first question, which is dedicated to the aspirants who are now going to US or in any of the abroad countries outside India for studying. So, first thing, what is your advice to them? How they should be doing their preparation, what should be their mindset when they're looking for a degree abroad or any education programs abroad, and secondly, how should they start their preparation, or what should be the way how they should be doing the preparation?
One thing is, uh, you have to have that hunger for knowledge. When you're young, especially, let's say 20 plus something, don't worry about too much about money. That can be very misleading,
Okay.
because what I've seen is a lot of younger generation, they want to make $1 million. Generally speaking, not from any particular country or anything like that. They want to make easily $1 million, and they think it's so easy. You can just come out, you can make it, and move on. They might make it, some of them, not everybody, right? Some of in the high tech, they get big packages nowadays. If they're very bright from very good schools, they get big packages and they get stock options and all that. My son is one of them, for example. So I don't think that should be the goal. You should always think this is a marathon. I'm not going to be done in 3 years, 4 years, right? It's going to be my lifelong learning. And when you're young, you can learn faster because you don't have the worries of the family, children. you are a little bit more nimble, right? As you get older, you get wiser, but you cannot learn as fast, right? So you need to take the full advantage of that. First is have a clear idea, whether it's wrong or right, doesn't matter, that this is what I want to do, this is why I want to do this. Then go all out to learn in that field, get the work experience you can, get the best grades you can, study as hard as you can, and also surround yourselves with very good friends who will take you to the where you want to go, right? That is
Right.
the key. That friends, right, has to be what I call satsanga, meaning the right
Yeah.
companionship. That is very, very important, because these are very basic things, right? All of us know, and I'm pretty sure if you're young, your parents keep telling you all these things.
Definitely.
I can't stress more on this, because when you're young, your mind works like a monkey. You try to do things that you should not be doing, whether it is the drinking, drugs, sex, whatever it is, right? So
Right.
you try to do all those things which is not doesn't add any value to your life.
Right.
If you want to
Definitely.
be successful, you have to be disciplined. You have to have that passion to learn, not money. Money will come. Saraswati first, then Lakshmi will follow,
Oh,
and you need
wow.
Parvati also, because health. You need health, right? So you need Parvati also. Three women in your life, three goddesses in your life are very important, right? So
Amazing.
it is, you need to have that thinking, and the spiritual side of you also should be very important. India is from a religion point of view, if especially if you're Hindu, most of us are very religious. At least at home, we are religious. But when
Yes.
you grow up in big cities, like Mumbai, Bengaluru, Indore, maybe, we think it's cool to be not do that. There is a
Yes.
reason why it's successful. Even today, we see that in India, and we don't know when it started. Right, it's thousands of years. It's
Right.
there because it's a formula that will work.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would have been destroyed long time ago. 2000 years, 1000 years, gone. We can see, for example, the Egyptian civilization. Where is it today? It's
Gone.
gone
Yes.
completely. You go to
And
Brazil, I've been to Brazil, I was asking them, what happened to your Inca culture? What happened to it? You guys, in 75 years, they built the roads and the forts and everything. The Inca culture, you can't, now one person is from that culture. Everybody is Christian because they were all converted by the Spanish or the Portuguese, right? And they're completely forgotten. That history is gone. In the museum you can see it, but that is gone. But in India it's not the case. Still we
right.
know who Shivaji is. We can relate to our Shivaji. We can relate to our great goddesses, and from Rama to Krishna, we can still relate to it, right?
Right.
So I think we have to understand, mature enough about it, not hate it without understanding why these things are done,
Right.
and not think that everything that's outside of India is cool. Everything that's inside India is, backward, and
Rudimentary. Yes.
that's especially when I was a young kid 30 years ago. That's the impression I also had when, as a young man, right? I just
Right.
wanted to fly to the US. I said, "There's nothing for it," because getting a job was not easy that time.
Right.
If you look at in the late '80s, it was not easy. Not that many opportunities. India had not opened up, right? And the tech world had not taken off. Um, so I think these are things they should understand. Even before they want to Germany, they want to go, or they want to go to US, or stay back in India also, they have to have the intelligence to evaluate everything objectively and figure out, what do I want to do, what is my best fit, and wherever I'm going to invest, not just the money, the time, because that time is not going to come back. When you're young, it's gone after
Right.
that, right? If I want to go back to do masters and PhD, I can do it, but it's very difficult because I have so many obligations now, right? Some people do at the age of 70, 80, they go back and get degrees and all that, but that's very few, correct?
Right.
So because there are so many other obligations, so it has to be clear. Thinking has to be there. That comes from you, your parents, obviously, but also your good friends. Some of them are probably smarter than you. Always associate yourself with smarter people. That way they can show you the path, and then you'll be successful. So that's all. It's a long answer I gave you, but younger people have to think about it.
It's much needed.
Yeah, it's much
Of
needed.
course.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. I need to attach charger to my laptop. Can I just go and grab it?
yeah. Go for it,
We
please.
will
Yeah,
cut this part. So sorry.
yeah,
So
yeah.
sorry.
Not a problem.
So my next question is, like, you've studied in both the countries, okay?
Yep.
And what is the difference that you find, and why would you say that people should go out to broaden their minds, and why
Yeah.
they should have, if they can afford, if it's in the under their purview, Why should students try to take one of the degrees maybe from their own country, from India itself, because we have a good education system here as well. Like we have IITs, we have IIMs, but
Absolutely.
still, why is there a need for an abroad education? What would you suggest regarding that?
Yeah. If I were to redo it, maybe I would have done it slightly differently because opportunities in India are plenty now,
Okay.
especially in the tech world, right? You can start your own company now. From last year, I was looking at some statistics. Bangalore is the sixth largest in terms of startups, okay, in the world.
Okay.
So it's happening, okay, in India also it's happening, still maybe very small compared to like San Francisco, or one of the in the Bay Area here, right? Because all the
Okay.
startups come out of Bay Area. But
Yes.
it's changing, right? We have billion-dollar companies in India now. Ola is one of them, right? Even their Kutrim is like $1 billion valuation. So and Zoho is another example, right?
Yes.
He's a billionaire.
Yes.
It's
I mean,
happening, I
yet
think.
his lifestyle is amazing. I mean,
I
I
know that.
keep
Yeah,
on
yeah.
watching his
He's
podcast.
Sridhar Vembu is my role model. I mean,
Yes,
he's
of
very
course.
very good,
Yes,
accomplished. So I think we should take inspiration from such people. And sometimes what happens is you don't have to leave the country, especially if the opportunities are there, right?
right.
Because it's much easier to succeed in your own country. The reason is you know the system, you have the connections. Culturally, there is no difference, right? It's easy to blend language, culture, everything. We think English is English. It's not the same. I mean, you come to the US, it's different. Culturally, the reason we have accents, the language is different. It's a big adjustment, and people always look at you differently. The reason you speak differently,
Yes,
and especially people like me who came in. I was what, 22, 23 years old, right, when I came to the States, 22 to be exact. So I was not born here, right? So if my
right,
kids were born here, so for them it's much easier than me. But after living here for so long, not a big deal. I easily can adjust to India and here both.
right,
So, if there's an opportunity in India, if you have a good idea as to what schools you want to go, and if you can achieve that, get the best degree that's possible, and figure out whether you want to join a big company or be entrepreneurial, what are the opportunities? If you're smart enough, you can figure it out. I think India is a place where it's growing. It's growing faster than the US. If you look at country as a whole, India is growing much faster. There are a lot more opportunities in India. So it should not discount India. Okay,
okay,
having said that, so let's
right,
say you really want to go abroad, whether it's Singapore, Germany, or anywhere for that matter, US. One thing what happens is half of travel when you go abroad is education. The reason is you figure out, you tend to be tougher. The reason is, when you're young, right, you have to come here, figure out to make money, how to communicate, because the language is still different, culture is very different, and how to make yourself sustainable, right? Because when you come in, you don't have that much money in your pockets. We're all graduate students. At least I was a graduate student. You have to get assistantships, live on a very basic. Because my parents were very well to do. Even today, they're well to do back in Bangalore. But I took it up as a challenge. I said, I'm not going to ask them for anything. I need to be a self-made person, right?
right,
That is very good. That India, I mean, coming to the US gave me that opportunity to build something from scratch. I started with zero. I mean, literally zero. I started with, right. I had $1,000 in my pocket, pretty much, when I came to the States.
okay,
So everything else was taken care of, right? This country gave me the education, then gave me the ability to research, then work for some other company, then start my own company. All that happened in the US. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity. But also, I came in as a driven person, right? So this country also is lucky to have a person like me, where I have created jobs, correct? I have provided services to many US companies and multinationals. So I am also adding value, right? I pay taxes. So I'm a contributor to the local economy. So I'm doing that in a bigger than what an average American would do. The reason is I run my own company, right?
right.
So I pay much higher taxes because of my companies, because of what I have made over all these years, and I've created job opportunities. Culturally, every country is different. Even if you go to Bangladesh and Pakistan, we can't fit.
We can't
Correct?
definitely.
We can't
Yes,
fit. You go to Nepal, also it's an adjustment. Go
yes,
to Sri Lanka, it's an adjustment. Forget US. You're talking
yes,
about the greater India, right? What used to be the greater India. If
yes,
you go today, it's a big adjustment, because I've been to Indonesia, I've been to Malaysia, Singapore. every single, I mean, in Indonesia, if you go to Bali, it's Hindu, mostly Hindu,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
their Hinduism is so different. They look different,
They look
and
different.
their
Their culture is different.
culture
Their
is different.
way of
So,
praying is different. Yeah.
so what happens when you go from country to country, whichever country that is, it makes you a little bit more flexible. You makes you ability to learn, adjust. So your connections are being made in a better way because you're learning more. If you live in your own country, sometimes you don't learn. Here you're forced to learn, right?
Right.
For example, when I came to the United States, it was all PCs were not there that much. PCs were there, Macs also were there. I'm talking about the university, mostly mainframes.
Okay.
So they say, go get your resume done. First of all, I didn't know what a resume was. You always call it CV or what a biodata or something we used to
Yeah.
call in India. You come here and they say resume. It's a French word, right? So you figure out how to go get this done, and we have to use LaTeX for that. It's not like what you see is what you get. Meaning you didn't have the graphical user interface where Microsoft Word, everything has to be coded. You don't even know how to log into a mainframe, so you have to plead your seniors to help me create a resume, right? Without a resume, I can't get anything now. Like everybody wants to see your resume. So it is tough. It's extremely tough. Those 3 months, 6 months, or a year, it is very, very difficult, right? But your learning is exponential. You learn so much. And that you cannot get if you're in your own country. If you go to some other country, you become like a warrior almost. That's why immigrants are very successful, no matter where they come from. All the immigrants that have come to the United States are very successful. The first generation, like me, right, who have gone,
Right.
not born there, but gone to a country, they are hardworking, they're very successful. They pay their taxes, everything. But second, third, fourth generation, they become lazier and lazier and lazier. You see that in your among the kings also, right? The founder of the dynasty is always very powerful, very strong. He or she will build the entire kingdom. But if you go to third, fourth, fifth generation, it'll fall apart. The
Yes.
kingdom is gone. Basically, somebody else will come and rule because you're so lazy, right? You got everything, put on a golden platter, and you're done.
Right.
So same thing happens here also. So or anywhere, even in this day-to-day life. So that's all I would like to say. Nothing like what is good or what is bad. It just depends on each one's ambitions, their own situation, and what they want to achieve. They should have that intellect to analyze all these, and have a mentor who can guide them. Because when you're young, you think you know everything. You don't have the wisdom. Wisdom only comes with age and what life teaches you. Having kids, traveling, failing in life, succeeding in life. So all that is happens only through over time, and that's how you get wisdom, which you don't have as a 20-year-old. You might be very smart, IQ must be like through the roof, right? But still you don't have the wisdom because you cannot buy. It is time. It depends on time. So
Right.
I think a good mentor will definitely help. At least make them think. The mentor should make them think, not tell them what to do. Make them think. That's what's important.
Right. Okay. So, my next question is that, and I would first give you the reason why I'm asking you that, because when I meet the youngsters now, or okay, I'm also not very experienced. I'm just 5 years experienced and just seen the industry superficially, just at the nursery part of it. But now when I see the freshers who are in pharmacy generally, so they are more inclined toward work from home. They're always cribbing on the salary that is being given. And since you have switched into a pharmacy background now, and you have run and you own a pharmacy company or a biotech life science company since so many years, and you're working in this field, you know how much less the pharmacy people are paid in comparison to any other fields, mostly the IT fields.
I
So
do.
the mindset when they see their engineering friends getting 25-30 lakh packages or 1 crore packages after just going out of the college as a fresher, versus a pharmacy student sees that okay, I'm getting only 2.5 LPA for an Indian student. It's a big heartbreak for them, and they start, feeling sad about getting depressed and everything. Ki, why am I getting paid so low? Okay, because the degrees were of 4 years, both were doing the same thing. But what's wrong with me? And it's not just for the fresher; it's for the next 5-6 years. They'll, or maybe 10 years down the line, they'll be paid little less. compared to any other industry. So what this comparison mindset does is it makes them feel very low about their own field, their own knowledge that they've gained for the 4 years. They've done the practicals, they've done so many laboratory experiments, everything goes into vain. They only think about the money. So I want to ask you, what was your first salary when you started doing your job? And what should the audience learn from you, that one day the salary can be very low because you're a fresher, but the other day, maybe you can be at a big promotional or a decision making position in a company, or maybe you can be an entrepreneur and you can be like Nagesh sir and you own your own company, right? So what was your first salary? How was your first job? What were the struggles? And what the audience and the freshers, the new kids who are getting graduated now in 2024 or 2025, what should be their mindset about money and the initial salaries?
I'll go back to the previous thing I said. Let's say you want to make money, you get a lottery. Let's assume you're young, you get a lottery. So Lakshmi is being grateful, she gave you everything. But that will be very fleeting. The reason is you might lose it within 5 years or 3 years, because people who get lottery, they don't even know how to manage that money. Let's say you are a common man, you get $1 billion. Let's assume 1 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? 1,000 million.
Right. Yes.
And you don't even know how to manage it. And people will be like vultures around you, try to grab everything they can. Everybody is your brother, everybody is your sister then, right?
Yes.
Because they want a piece of the pie. So they don't know how to manage it. Same thing will happen to athletes, right? Some of the athletes are very successful, not just playing the sport, but also managing the money they make and expanding their empire, like Michael Jordan, for example, right?
Right.
He's a very good, he was a very successful all-rounder, correct? But not many are like that. The reason is they get so much money, they get into drugs, they do things that they should not be doing, right?
Right.
And everything is gone after a point. They get into a car accident and they probably die, correct?
Right.
And it'll be a very fancy car, and that's it, it's gone. They're also gone, and this one is also gone.
Yes.
So I think if somebody is so money focused, they're never going to get it. Even if they get it, it is a luck and they will lose it. It's not permanent. We should understand that Lakshmi is never permanent. It is always Saraswati which is permanent, meaning knowledge.
No.
Knowledge is never, you can never lose knowledge. That's why they say for a dancer, especially women, right? Bharatanatyam dancers and all that. But once you past your prime, right? It's gone, meaning you cannot be a dancer at the age of 70 years. It's very difficult, right? To be a dancer. But if you're a vocalist, you could be 80, 90 years, you can still sing,
Yes.
right? So it's like a permanent thing. So what I'm trying to get at is money is not permanent. Even if you get it, you may not even have the maturity to manage it and make it. $1 should become $10. $10 should become $100, right? So, and if you're so focused on money and being jealous about why my neighbor is making twice as much, what happened to him, right? You'll never be successful. You are very, very immature. You'll never be successful. It's like saying the dog can look at me and say, let's say I have a dog. Dog can look at me and say, why is this guy going in a car and he feeds me? I only get fed when he feeds me. Otherwise, I don't get paid. I don't get fed. And my house is locked. I'm always inside the house. I mean, it might think like that, right? I don't know whether it thinks like that, but it might think like that. So it might think, why am I a dog? And this guy is a human being. He is so much comfort. He commands over me. He's my boss, right? And maybe it's jealous. I don't know. But we should understand that there's something called law of karma. Okay? It's a universal principle. And everybody is part of the law of karma. You are who you are. I am who I am because of law of karma. Even God can't change that. He has put a system in place, and we have to go back to Hinduism and understand that. It makes sense also. It makes sense also, because cannot be one life, because why Nagesh is Nagesh, why Trump is Trump, or why, this guy is this guy, So you cannot explain that. So you have to always try to improve yourself, do better. So, for example, my guru, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, used to say, maturity comes when you become from being a consumer, you become a contributor. As a young man or a young woman, I always consume, right? Meaning parents take care of you, you go to school, somebody teaches you, right? They give you the money. You're always consuming. You never contribute. Then you get a job. Then you're trying to buy a house. You get married. You have children. Still consuming. There'll be a point when you become a contributor, meaning you donate, not just money, maybe time, right? Maybe knowledge you donate. Maybe you'll get a group of people to do something big, right? On the philanthropy side. So that's when you start contributing. So initially it's consuming, and then you contribute. All this comes with maturity. So we should understand that it's a not a small cycle. It's multiple lives. It is, right. It's not single life. So what is the best I can do here, right? And money has its own problems also. Do you think everybody who has money is happy? Probably not. The more you have, because you don't have the maturity to manage the wealth, it cannot get into your head. It is, again, what my Guruji used to tell me, right? You are just like a temporary keeper of your wealth. The wealth might belong, you think it belongs to you, but it's just you're a temporary keeper. Whatever it comes, okay, for a few years I'll have it. Then, it may be gone, it may become big. I have no idea. But I'm just a temporary keeper, because lifespan, even if it's 100 years, it's too short, right? If you look at the overall big scheme of things, what is 100 years? When the earth is 4.5 billion years old, what is 100 years? Correct? 100 years is nothing, right? So this maturity has to come. I really encourage them to study the Gita, however young they are. Not just chant the Gita, understand Gita, right? If they understand Gita, all the problems, whatever I'm telling you, it's like whatever they have, like whether I'm not making enough money, my neighbor is, because it's their prarabdha. They must have done a lot of punyam, right? He's first rank, state level. So he got into a good college. Some company paid him a lot of money, right? So you may not have that because that's your prarabdha, but still you can aim for it. Like, you can always get better.
Do the
I'll give
hard
you an
work.
example. My very good friend, he is a CEO of a company in the US. It's a very, very large company. About 3,000 people work. It's an IT company. And he's from Bits Pilani, pharmacy. Again, you tell pharmacy, so happens that he's pharmacy. He's my wife's very good friend. He's my friend too, but my wife knows him very well.
Okay.
He doesn't know anything about IT. Okay.
Okay.
He started an IT company about maybe 20 years ago. You know how much he's worth today? His company is worth 2 billion, and he himself is worth 80% of that.
Oh my God.
And he leads an IT company. They are into AI, big data, you name it, they're into all that. Worldwide, he has acquired so many companies. Almost every country he has an office. Almost. Like from Mexico, you name it, every country has an office. But he can't code. But he's brilliant, very knowledgeable, very mature. He's 40 plus, by the way. He's not like 60 or 70 years old.
Okay.
So
Can we
what
have
that
the
shows
name
you
after
is,
the podcast?
yeah. So what I mean to say, is he's very mature. Basically,
Okay.
he he's a gnani, meaning he knows, he has the knowledge to be mature enough, and he's successful. From a financially, he's very successful. But even today, he drives a dinky car. I mean, it's really literally a broken car. The guy is so rich. He is not flashing and driving a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. He doesn't care.
Right.
So I think it is. Everybody's situation is different, so I cannot generalize anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong being ambitious to make more money, right?
Right.
But you should understand that just focusing on that without putting the effort to gain more knowledge and being more entrepreneurial or whatever, right? Helping others, being a well-rounded person, there's no point, and you'll never get it. You just won't get it.
Right.
So even if you get it, just temporary. It's just not a permanent.
Great. Okay, now we'll move towards the more technical side of the podcast because we want to talk about GXP guidelines. We want to talk
Yep.
about what the company does, what all services you provide. So let's slowly get into that. If you were to explain to a fresher student or somebody who's right now pursuing pharmacy degrees, what would you tell them about GXP?
Yeah. GXP stands for, as you know, GCP, GMP, and GLP, right? Good
Right.
manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices, good clinical practices. So these three are the three pillars in life sciences, right? Any
Right.
drug, pharma, any medical device, medtech, right? Any biotech, biopharma, biopharmaceutical product, they have certain guidelines they have to follow. Whether they're doing research and getting into clinical research, mostly clinical research. Research, if it is not done on humans, they can do what they want, right? So, but when they get into clinical research, in that strict guidelines are there, they have to follow. And and that is your GCP, like how to conduct the clinical trials, what are the different phases, how to prove the drug safety, how to prove that it is efficacious. There are guidelines for that. So that is your GCP, meaning in the US and most advanced countries and most countries have guidelines, right? It's country specific. And in the US, FDA, Food and Drug Administration, sets all these guidelines, right? All the regulations. And they are not just guidelines, they are regulations, meaning you're legally bound to follow that. If you don't follow, then you're a violation of the law. You understand, right? So there's a legal connotation to that. So it's not that, oh, just guidelines I may not follow. Yeah, there are guidelines, but certain things are regulations. There are good clinical practices, there are regulations. Similarly, when you get into manufacturing, meaning you go from a clinical trials into being a commercial drug. So that's when you go into large scale manufacturing, right? So GMP apply. Even clinical trials in the last phases, when you actually start making some drugs for clinical trials, still you have to follow, but that's at a much smaller scale, and typically it's not as stringent as when you go into commercial manufacturing. So commercial manufacturing is where you have the GMP, good manufacturing practices. These are all regulations, and they depend on the type of drug you're making or a medical device you're making. In some cases, combo, right? Is either a pharma or biotech product, or it's a medical device, or it's a combination. For example, you can have a lens, like a contact lens, which could be drug coated. That's a combo. It's a pharmaceutical plus a medical device.
Right.
You can have a stent that is used to fix your heart or arteries, but that could be drug coated, so then becomes a combination where two agencies will be involved in the FDA. FDA also has three agencies: CEDAR, which is for the drugs, CBER for the biotech, and you have the one for medical device also, right? So you have three agencies that govern or that make sure make sure that the regulations are followed by all the different companies and all the individuals involved, right? So in the case of pharmacy, right, I'm an engineer, right? I'm not a pharmacist. So that's why, I got into manufacturing controls, manufacturing systems, writing software, understanding software, right? But it was related to drug manufacturing. But my pharmacy is not my background. If you're a pharmacist, then you get into the composition of the drug itself, right? Then you get into the process used to make the drug and the kind of QC tests that you need to do so that, you can assure that, the drug is pure enough, meets the specifications, right? So those are things you'll be involved in. But as a controls engineer or as a manufacturing engineer, I would actually make sure that whatever machines they had would run properly. The software would control those machines. It made the product. All the inspections and all would happen, and I had to prove that that inspections would happen. And and you use different kinds of inspections. Right? You could use vision system. You could use many different technologies to make sure that the product, depending on the product, again, the product is manufactured and it does meet the in-process inspection that they make, and finally it's sent to the lab, maybe, and the lab will do its own tests, and then they release the batch. So there are different aspects involved. There are so many different disciplines involved, whether it is quality controls, manufacturing, pharmacy, chemistry, chemical engineering, chemists, microbiologists, right? So depends on your role, but no matter what your role is, you still have to follow these guidelines or regulations, manufacturing, laboratory, and your clinical protocols or clinical regulations, but within each of these domains, your role will be different based on your education background and also based on your professional background. Your roles will be different, but still you need to have, based on your role, you need to know that part of the regulation that applies to your role in that point in time, and be well versed in it, so that you can interpret it and make sure that you can do your job, and whatever you do does meet the guidelines. All companies have SOPs, as policies, procedures, everything. They train you. So it's not that you have to figure it out. Most of it will be handed to you. But obviously, when you're working on new projects, you need to interpret those SOPs. You need to apply it so that your intelligence comes into play there, right? to have that understanding of what the regulation is. Because regulation really doesn't tell you exactly what to do. It's a very general policy statement, right?
Right.
Technologies change, drug products change, regulations don't change.
Right.
To give an example, computer software guidelines, validation guidelines was released almost 20 years ago. There are not made that many changes. I'm talking about the regulation itself. There are not many that many changes, right? There are a lot of guidelines that were released after that. But cloud was not there, AI was not there, nothing was there in 20 years ago.
Right.
But so I need to make sure that technology keeps moving, regulatory frameworks takes time to catch up. So you need to understand that how can I apply that and the spirit of that regulation so that you apply it properly, because when you have an inspection you should be able to defend it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So why is this regulation in place, according to you?
That's again a good question. I'll just go back to US, since that I have a lot of because I kind of grew up there, right? Meaning I grew up in India, but most of my professional career was here.
Right.
So I think FDA was formed in 1935, the Food and
Okay.
Drug Administration.
Okay.
Okay. Before that, there was no Food and Drug Administration. People would mix up whatever they want in their home, in the garage, and put it for sale. People have died because
Yes.
of that, right? So the motivation to establish an administration, meaning administration is, when you hear a word administration, they have to come up with laws. Obviously the president and the congress will sign off on it, but they have to enforce it.
Right.
So they have to manage the whole thing. So they need to know, they have to approve drugs, they have to propose regulations, so that it gets better and better, and they have to enforce it by training inspectors and doing all that. So it's not an easy function. And when there's a pandemic, what will you do, right? You can't follow the normal protocols. You need to change your protocols completely within the guardrails of the regulation, right? So 1935 they established FDA. There was a very good reason for that, because they wanted the government to have a agency or an administration that can oversee the clinical research that was done and the manufacturing practices that went into making drugs. Because drugs is not like some cosmetic you're making. You're putting something into your body, right? Either injectable, or you're putting something into your body orally, right? So imagine it can go into your body. So you have to prove that the drug is a safe, right? And b, it does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. The
It's
efficacy.
efficacious. So you need to prove that. Nothing was there before that. So then they slowly started. I mean, they established FDA so that the country knows, if somebody wants to make a drug here, this is how you have to prove before you can get the license, right? That this drug really works. That's the clinical trials, right? Then
Yes.
after that, once you get your license, then you need to prove that you're on an ongoing basis, you're manufacturing the way you're supposed to manufacture, and you have the framework not only to manufacture the right product, but also take complaints, adverse events, then take action, based on that. Maybe even stop manufacturing if there are serious side effects that you didn't foresee or didn't happen during clinical trials, right?
Right.
So all this is managed by the FDA. What I'm saying is a very small piece of it, but you get an idea. Like, this
Yes.
is why you need an administration or an agency that can enforce all these things and provide the leadership to the entire capitalistic companies that that are in business to make money, right?
Right.
So they don't care. FDA should not care about money. They should not, and they don't care about money. They think is this is the rule. Whether you're a small company or a big company, you have to follow these rules.
Right. What happens when there is a violation of any of the GXP laws?
Yeah. So once you get your license, typically, right, and every year you're supposed to submit like an annual report
Right.
of everything that happened during manufacturing and the complaints you received, what kind of complaints, everything has to be summarized. If there's a death within 24 hours, you have to report to the FDA.
Right.
So these are all huge protocols that all drug companies have to follow, right? So and they do inspect. I'm just talking about manufacturing right now. So they do inspect your facility every 2 years or so. They come. They can come unannounced. There is no that such thing as they have to set up a schedule, which they do. But like that's called a periodic. They'll come back and make sure that since the last visit, still you're doing okay, right?
Right.
So they come and inspect everything. They can inspect anything in your facility. Typically they inspect your labs, your manufacturing records, they talk to people, they can ask anything they want. It could be 2 days at your facility, it could be 7 days at your facility. You can't question them because it's the power of the government, central government, that you need to listen to them. So they do it, and they can find minor observations, right? Or they can find blatant failure to follow the regulations.
Right.
So they give what is called as a 483. It's Form 483.
Comment.
That's
Okay.
like if you get a speeding ticket, you get a ticket, right? Like that, the companies will get a ticket saying that these are your violations. So then the the highest will be a warning letter. Like they will give you a warning letter. That is like the highest. That means you did a really a bad job. You must have screwed up big time. Okay.
Okay.
They have the power to shut down your facility
Right.
and make you recall all the product. They
Right.
have that power. Okay. So so that's how it works. Typically they give you a 483. That's a bad deal because it's like a black mark for the company. And because you have to fight the FDA, there'll be the legal teams will get involved. They go back and forth. Sometimes the companies sue the FDA also, which in the US only it's possible. India, I don't think anybody can do that. In US only it's possible, right? You can sue the FDA also. So, in effect, that's what happens. They give you a ticket, and different levels based on the violations, and you could be given some time, and to correct it, you have to respond saying that I understand your complaint, and this is my plan to correct everything. Typically, that's what happens, and they might come back to make sure that you're followed. Worst case, highest is called consent decree, meaning at that time they don't completely trust you at all. There were some gross violations, right? They gave you a warning letter and they put you under a consent decree because they don't absolutely trust you. It's almost like the FDA controls the company at that point. It rarely happens, but I've been through situations where my customers were under a consent decree. So what happens then is FDA will impose a third party agency like a quality control group. So whatever your quality does will be inspected by a third party quality control group, which FDA will say, and then only you can operate. So basically you have the FDA, you have another third party company telling you what to do. So that is like, basically they're squeezing your neck.
Right.
That's a bad deal. You'll end up spending for $1, you have to spend $10, and still you cannot operate freely because somebody's watching you all the time. So it's a nightmare. Then you have to promise them so many things. And once you get caught like that, it's very difficult to get out of that. And financially also, you take a big hit.
Okay, that was dreadful, but that explains us mostly that why GXP is so important and why the regulations need to be taken seriously first of all, and they need to be religiously followed.
Yeah,
Right.
and there's a reason, right? We are making drugs, right? So, and like I said, a lot of it is discretion also. Regulations don't tell you exactly what to do,
Right.
meaning they're not prescriptive, they're high level policy statements.
Mhm.
So that's why people like me who are consultants, in whatever field you are in, we have a job because we need to help our customers interpret that because technology is changing, processes are changing, products are changing, right? But the regulations are static. How do I interpret that, right, and apply it to my new facility? So people like me get involved. But either way, all of us have a responsibility here because this is consumed by humans or animals, doesn't matter, but if it's humans, it's even more critical. But we cannot take it so easy because there could be deaths or somebody can lose an eye or maybe the heart stops working.
Right.
And we saw that during COVID, right?
Right.
And it was a little bit of a mess.
That clarifies a lot. Now, sir, I would want to ask you about the services that you provide at your company. What is XLM based on, and what are the services you provide, and the different offices? Like you told, you have an office in Mumbai, in Bangalore, in US. So, what all services you guys provide?
Yeah. So my career started in software validation, right? Software testing. And even today, a lot of the software is tested using manual methods, meaning it's paper and pencil, right? Pretty much, to uh, test the software, document the results, everything. So in 2016, I saw this because I had so much experience in this field. I thought, when the cloud is coming, we need to kind of upgrade and use software to test software. In the software world, it's very common. You use software to test software, right? So, for example, if I want to test a particular software application, I can design software that logs in like a human, like a bot. It logs in, it does everything a human does, only faster. And it can do, we can have a video recording of that, we can get the output from there and document it like a report. All that can be done. This helps for us to constantly test the software, right? So we don't have to, once it's designed, chances are that we can push a button, it'll test it, give me a report within few minutes, within a few hours max. Do that. So that's how I started continuous validation. That's why it's called continuous validation, meaning not that it's constantly testing, it's that you can constantly test, but it's totally automated.
Okay.
So you use software to test software. It's very common in the software industry, but not so common in pharmaceutical manufacturing.
Okay.
So people still use, old style, because they think, oh, it's difficult, or they don't understand the technology, or they're comfortable doing what they are doing, right? Because this needs a special expertise to do this.
Right.
So we started providing this as a managed service, so our customers don't have to have anything. They can use any cloud application. They come to us, so we make sure that we understand the software, how they plan to use it. We document everything from requirements, specifications, and show that all the requirements have been tested using automation.
Right.
So it's literally lights out. Once my team does everything they're supposed to do, you can just push a button and it executes all the tests and gives you a report at the end of it. No human intervention. It can do that. So it took us about 2-3 years to make this work, meaning work flawlessly. And it's working nice because it's almost been 7-8 years now. So it's working very nicely. Now what we are trying to do is, we are expanding. We are not limiting ourselves to continuous validation. We are trying to get into many other services. So if you're a small biotech company, you don't have that many IT people. You need many applications. You need a ticketing system. You need a application lifecycle management system, a validation management system, a quality management system, an ERP system. So many systems you need to run your company, right? And if anything is related to the drug product, then it has to be validated. So what we are done is we partnered with a bunch of companies. So we are delivering all this, what I call data center in the cloud. Everything is pre-configured with best practices, and it involves continuous validation. All they have to do is pay us within a day. We can turn the switch on, and they can start using all these applications. So that's one thing we are expanding into. And third is, using AI and ML, we want to automate certain processes, so within the pharmaceutical, because it's very manual, right? Like
Right.
if you want to do a risk assessment, somebody has to go through a lot of things, figure out, document it. It's very cumbersome and manual. We are trying to use AI to simplify those processes, automate it, do it faster with more accuracy and cheaper. So we are developing various models. You must have heard of LLMs, large language models.
Yes.
So what we are working on is called LAMs, large action models.
Okay.
So you can use large language models, but uh, develop an agent, a software agent, or a humanoid or a robot that can do work just like a human being, meaning pretty much anything the human being does, this particular bot should supposed to do. We are trying to develop various bots like that. What we call, for example, VAM, for validation action model. It can do software testing on its own. Just to give an example how advanced this is, right?
Yes.
So if you just give my bot the access to software and also the user manual, it can figure out everything, write the user requirements, and figure out all the tests it's supposed to do, and do the testing and give me the evidence. I didn't imagine that we could do that even a year ago.
Oh my
So
God.
we are at that level now for software testing. So similarly, we are doing CAM, which is code automation, code action models, meaning it can write code that's used in clinical research, for example, on its own. So and it can test that code also. So that we are doing. and also we are working on DAM, which is document action models, where we want to get rid of the word interface. So anybody who wants to create a document comes to our chatbot. It's intelligent because it has knowledge about the historical information, what all was done before, all the human beings that have contributed. It leverages all that. It's smart. Then you just tell it like English what to do. It will figure out everything. If it has any questions, it'll ask you. Then it generates a document for you,
Oh,
all that in minutes. So that's the dam. So like that, we're going to develop many agents, using LLMs, and create the LAM, or the large action models, to do certain functions what the human beings do. It could be in a co-pilot mode, where it does all the work, but still the human in the loop. The human being will approve it. Or it could be in the future, we'll have a model in the loop. One model will let do the work. There'll be another model do the QA function. It will do the QA function independent of the model one. So that's in the future, near future, maybe 2025. We'll start working on that model in the loop. So now from continuous validation, we are getting into many other fields. We want to automate all these different operations within clinical research or within manufacturing, and everything will be done per FDA guidelines. And we're going to build that software, provide that software as a SaaS service, so our customers can benefit. All this is happening because the whole world is doing it, but we are doing only in the pharmaceutical industry.
okay. So, talking about the AI/ML and the pharmaceutical industry and the students who are now under their graduation degrees and everything, when I interact with them, what I hear from them is they are thinking that all the software related pharma jobs, which have just come into the boom, like pharmacovigilance, medical
Yeah.
coding, clinical data management, it's just been like 5, 6, 10 years that they have accommodated themselves to these new kind of opportunities and getting into them. But just all of a sudden you wake up in 2023 and 2024 and AI captures the world. So now there is a myth that is circulating that AI will take away the jobs. Everything that a person is supposed to do when you're processing a case in pharmacovigilance or you're doing the clinical data coordinator activities, that will one day be done by AI, or the bots will take over, or the systems technology will take over. So is there any threat to the manpower or to the humans replacing being replaced by AI from the work?
Yeah, I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but if you look back at history, right,
Right,
anytime there's an industrial revolution, some people will lose jobs, no matter what, right?
right,
And some people, same thing happened, like we didn't have computers, the computers came in, we didn't have the internet came in, right?
right.
Now it's what they call industrial revolution 4.0 with AI and ML, right? So certain jobs will be replaced, but the idea is that AI will give every person the tools that they need to do their job better, right? And it'll act like a co-pilot so that you can do your job better. So if you are very young, you need to understand what AI can do, right? And right now, even if you're a software engineer who did not do AI but a regular legacy software, for them also it's very different. Meaning it's a totally different mindset, totally different tools, what they have to learn, right? So then in the world of AI, it's not like I'm just a programmer. You could be a data scientist, you could be, programmer also. So you need to understand how you're going to make yourself learn all these newer technologies, especially if you're young, right? Because 10, 15, 20 years from now, it'll be very different. I mean, there'll be AI everywhere. No doubt about it. Even within 5 years, it's going to happen, right? It'll be AI everywhere, and also it'll come into our clinical research and everywhere. Even drug discovery, AI is used in a big way, and I've written a lot of posts on that. How drug discovery, how they're using AI. Many posts I've written. If you go on LinkedIn, you'll see that.
Yes, yes, I have.
So the idea is that human beings will never be eliminated, in my opinion. It's
Definitely.
just that certain positions will be eliminated. Maybe certain, like for example, customer service, right? Those positions will definitely eliminate it because AI is much better, much faster. There's no concept of sleeping and getting tired, right? It just can do. It has access to such vast quantities of information. Human beings can't even compete with it, right? So you need to clearly understand. It's a guess at this point, but based on the information we have, how is AI impacting? keep in touch with the AI world, right? And read a little bit about it and figure out how I can learn a few things so that I become indispensable. Maybe even change the direction a little bit, right? So that's what maybe get into data sciences, maybe get into modeling, right? Maybe get into building AI applications. Maybe I'm just throwing out all these things, but maybe work for a company that's doing something in AI.
Okay.
So those are things they should think a little bit differently because it's happening as we speak. It's only going to accelerate.
Right.
Nobody knows where this will end or which direction it will take, but there will be changes coming in the job market, in the employment market. There'll be major changes, and especially mundane, simple tasks. It is very easy to automate.
Right.
It's extremely easy to automate. So there's still, especially in the pharma, it will take time because it's a regulated industry, right? You said pharmacovigilance, it's not easy to put a bot there,
Right.
it'll take some time. They will do it, but most probably in a co-pilot way, right?
Right.
Maybe it'll help you do some basic work so that you can review it and say, okay, it's good, like if you're a radiologist, maybe the bot can review the x-ray and give you a diagnosis, but still the doctor has to review and make sure that they agree,
Right.
right? So, but it helped the doctor maybe think in different ways that he or she may not even have thought about.
Right.
And I did a case study on that also. Like, I wrote an article on that where in Britain, the NIH did a research. So they gave all these X-rays, I think it was MRI scans, I think, to regular people, meaning humans, as well as qualified humans, and also to the AI application. Both, the, whatever humans caught, the AI caught, but it caught 17 extra cases which the humans missed.
Wow.
So it's a difficult, it's a challenging time right now. But if I were young, I wouldn't just stick with what I know. I need to graduate and learn new things, or
Right.
maybe change the direction a little bit, or work for a company that's better situated. Like, for example, what XLM is doing, right? We are trying to build AI applications for our customers in life sciences, right? So I think hopefully we'll succeed. That means we'll create more jobs in this field. So certain areas you'll have more jobs, certain areas it'll shrink. So
Right.
there'll be a lot of reskilling that has to happen.
Okay. Great.
Yep.
Okay, that clarifies a lot and gives me a direction of what I need to do. So, okay, thank you so much for this vision of AI. I want to know what is your vision and what is your mission at XLM? Why are you building what you're building? What's
You're
your
not
plan?
leaving any stone unturned here.
No,
You
no,
want to
I
know
can't.
everything.
See, I know the importance of your time, how precious it is, and I know the race I had to take, and I don't know when I'm gonna meet you again like this. So I don't want to leave anything. Just maybe the second last or
Yeah.
the last question today.
So for me, right, I worked for almost 30 plus years, right?
Right.
32 years. And all my life, I worked only in this area, mostly manufacturing, but also a little bit in clinical trials side. And even there also the technology that's used, right? The software that's used, that's what I was used to. And also in the labs also I've done a little bit, but mostly I would say 85% or 80% manufacturing. So I've gained a lot of knowledge. I've seen many cycles that has happened, right? We had the market crash, for example, 2008, 2009. Then, the advent of the cloud and the big data, and now it's AI/ML. So I've seen that. But the industry has been very slow. I mean, it takes a lot of time for the industry to catch up uh, with the technology, especially in manufacturing, because it's not easy to change the processes. It's not easy to change the culture. It's not easy to change the perceptions of the people. And big companies take even longer to do it. But with the advent of AI, maybe it happens faster. I have no idea. Um, so I've seen all these things. For me, this is fun, So this is another step. I'm learning. I spend at least an hour or two every day reading about AI, what's happening, because it just time is not enough, because it's so much happening, and every day there's so you won't believe it. Just in the US, if you go to one of these directories, there are over 12,000 companies providing AI services. 12,000, and the whole thing started a year and a half ago.
Right.
And maybe it's even larger. This is something that particular directory is telling me. There are companies that are not even registered there, correct? So what I'm trying to tell you is, a lot is happening, and I'm enjoying my thing because, in my case, I got very lucky because I had all the background. I already had a software company with XLM. Now I just have to expand my services, but I have to keep learning about AI and make some predictions like what direction it's going to take, how I can leverage what technology is coming, accordingly retool my teams so that we also make the right products, the right services that the industry might need, so that you get more satisfaction out of it. So that will happen for the next 2, 3, 5 years, I think. Then it will probably stabilize a little bit, right? It won't be like exponential. It'll be slow, incremental change. It'll happen. I'm guessing. We don't know that because they talk about AGI, right? General intelligence and things like that. If that's the case, if you can really think like a human, and and perform tasks, can imagine the what's going to happen to this world, right?
Right.
So I'm excited. I'm not afraid. In fact, it's a good opportunity for me to learn more and completely pivot my company towards AI. So that's what is my challenge, and I'm already started it last year in a big way. Even before that, we started, but last year in a big way, big push. We established what's called as continuous labs within my company. So we're doing a lot of research on different aspects of AI in India as well as here in Jacksonville. So we are trying to build new products, new solutions. So that will keep me going. But beyond that, for me, that will keep me really busy building this the new phase, right? The AI phase of my company, and trying to develop these different services. But beyond that, I am from Bengaluru, like I said. So I mean, it'll be nice to establish like a small village of my own where my all my company employees can live in harmony in a slightly remote place, like how Sridhar Vembu has done for Zoho, right?
Right.
But I'll take a little bit of a different twist because my guru, or my teacher, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, he has taught me a little bit about spirituality. So whatever we set up will be very spiritually oriented, in terms of bringing up young children, employees. So it's almost like a small village that we need to set up where you grow your own food, right? So you worship nature, which is very important. You worship the Gita, right? So you learn from it, and have teachers come and teach you, and same thing for the kids. So that's a model I would like to follow. So you do what you do for a living, but go back to basics, of our Hindu dharma, right? Go back to basics of Hindu dharma. If I can pull it off, I think that will be a much bigger contribution than all the technical stuff that I have done.
Amazing. I had no clue that this is your mission. Someday you'd
Someday we'll
follow
see.
these things. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I hope to visit that village soon and meet you in person. Okay. So two last questions. First,
Yeah.
I want to know, and you can use your Fifth Amendment Act if you want. You can skip the question, but I want to know what is the worth of XLM, because you told me when you went to US, you started from zero, you started from scratch, and you had just $1,000 in your pocket. So I want to know, where did you take it?
Yeah, it's we're a private company, so I cannot reveal all the
Okay.
financials to you.
Okay.
You know, we do a few million in sales.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now, with AI, that could multiply very fast. Meaning the more value we create by creating new AI based products. Just to give you an idea, we are on in the managed services area. So
Right.
for us, what's important is what's called as ARR, annual recurring revenue,
Right.
the subscriptions that come in.
Right.
So let's say if typically if a company brings in $1 million in ARR, right? Before AI, the company's value will be at least 12x, meaning 12 million.
Okay.
So with the AI, I think the multiplier is probably twice that. So because AI is much more valuable. So let's say you bring in life sciences, you bring in ARR of 10 million, for example, and most of it is because of the AI products. I can only guess what the company is going to be worth, right? It'll be much bigger, I think, right? 15x, 20x, that. So a lot of people come to me or communicate with me or call me because they want to invest in the company. Every day, almost I get an email or a phone call or LinkedIn, they communicate with me. So right now I'm not interested because I need the freedom to do what I want to do. And since we are a little bit older company, we have a cash flow that is coming, so we can keep the research going. Also, we can invest. I can invest back into the company. So, but once we build these AI products, let's say the next 2 3 years, and customers start using it, get good feedback, I think my valuation will be much higher than what it is today. Yeah, but you cannot be focused on that. You need to make sure that you build. So because building a company is just not about one thing, right? It's just not about revenue. It's about employees and how well they work together, how well we as a team work together, customers important, right? And how will we make sure that they're very happy, and vendors, the people who partners and vendors. So it's like a family. So you need to keep, and the dynamics are different. The customer relationship is different from employee relationship, is different from a partner relationship. So we need to keep all this going. On top of that, we have social media and all that, right? From a marketing perspective, and what the world thinks of you, right? Because everything is out in the open today in social media. So we need to stay on top of it. So it's like a family, really, so you need to uh, manage all of this. And there are good days, there are bad days, but you have to keep, like a horse, you have to keep running, running, running. I mean, that's the idea. Never get distracted. And there will be failures. I mean, otherwise you won't be successful anyway, right? So you'll fail, you'll make mistakes, but learn from that, and keep doing. But always never violate dharma, meaning whatever we think, right? We have to be dharmic. The ethics, is very important. You can never violate the ethics.
Okay. And one last question. That's
Yeah.
the last one, I promise. So, what is your final message to the audience today? And how did you like the podcast? I would like you to mention that as well. And just let me know, let all of us know who are listening this podcast, that as an entrepreneur, as a pharmaceutical entrepreneur, as a youngster, what should be the way we should go ahead? What should be the path? If you were our mentor, what would you suggest?
Yeah. um, to me, I really am fascinated with technology, whether it is in the sciences or in engineering, or IT, for example. They're all related, but so you cannot be afraid to learn new things. No matter what, let's say you didn't know anything about software development, you should have the confidence that I will learn. No big deal. I have the intelligence to learn, right? So if you're not going to take up those challenges, you'll never be successful, because life is very unpredictable. It happens in your life also. Forget the professional side, right? So you get married, you think it'll work, it may not work. Sorry. It may not even work, right? So how will I do it? You'll have kids, you think it's going to be very smooth. It may not be that smooth, right? There could be accidental deaths in the family. Things can go wrong. Depression. You might lose all the money that you made. Financial hardships. So many things happens, but each one is a learning lesson, right? You cannot give up, right? So there was a customer of mine, even today. It was in the 90s. He said that, like, it's a sports analogy. You can push me down, never count me out. So life can push you down, but you have to get up. You cannot be feel self pity, right? Oh my God, why is God done this to me? What have I done? No, that doesn't work. You have to hold your shoes by the straps and get up. Your boots by the strap and get up. And don't blame anybody. You deserve it, but don't give up. There's always a brighter day tomorrow. Whenever it rains, there'll be sun the next day. So you need to, hopefully, it'll be the sun next day. And these are basic things. Whether you're an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur, doesn't matter. So I think the foundation is understanding who you are, the inner self, right? Having that inner peace within yourself, no matter what happens, whether it's success, whether it's failure, doesn't matter, right? You should have the maturity to manage your sentiments and your feelings, like anger, for example. So, right? So, or depression. So, if you can do that, that's what Gita teaches basically. It's called samatva, meaning you always say equanimity. So, you always go like this. You can't go like this, like this, like this. You always are like that.
Come.
Sthita pragna. Krishna uses the word sthita pragna, So you have to be like that, meaning nothing should touch you. It's okay. This too shall pass. That's the attitude we should have. Because otherwise, life is very hard. You feel like crying every day or maybe laughing every day, right? So that is the ultimate message I have to all your listeners is to get back to basics. Understand who am I really. What is my body, what is my mind? Am I really the body, am I really the mind? What are my feelings? What makes me successful? What is success anyway, right? Is it making money success, or being calm all the time success? Sleeping well success, right? And not hurting anybody success? Treating my parents well success? Treating my family, my wife, my kids well success, right? So you need to understand what really success means, and I'll tell you, it's not just financial. We always have one track mind, financial success, because society has made us think that way. So you can be one of the cows in the herd, right? Everybody thinks, I also think like that. I just go with the herd. Or you can be the black sheep. No, I want to step back and think this, rethink this. Why is it like that? You don't have to follow the rules set by somebody else. You can make your own rules and have that dhyryam or courage, to face it and understand it, and be a leader that way. Leader within yourself. Forget outside and all that. Lastly, I want to tell your audiences, again, it comes from my guru. Uh, you cannot change anything. If you aspire to change the country, your father, mother, your friends, you're dreaming. You really cannot change anything. If at all you can change, it's yourself. Even that's a challenge. So that's what you should understand.
Okay.
It was very, very nice chatting with you. I
Thank
really enjoyed our talk. And I don't know how the time went by. It's a long podcast. So but I think we did not even stop for a minute. We were constantly talking,
Yes.
and this was very good. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, sir, for making out time for us and explaining so many things so deeply. And yet, you're such the glow on your face and your smiling face and your enthusiasm. It just feels like keep on going on. I think it is it's not the time to end the podcast, but of course we have time limitations, and I want to hear more and more from you. I'm gonna chase you again next time for another podcast. I hope I'll be able to grab you for another one, because we have talked about so many things, the entire journey about your company, your life, everything. But I know there are so many things to unfold, remaining to unfold. So, guys, this is Nagesh Nama, sir. Okay, I'm getting goosebumps now. I don't know whether things you were telling me to follow or whether it was for the audience, but I am feeling like I am sitting in front of a mentor and I need to take a lot of things from the podcast. I have to sit in the editing and watch it many, many times because I really need to take notes. So, yeah. So, guys, as I said, this is Mr. Nagesh Nama, the CEO of xLM and two, three more other companies. I'm so overwhelmed and touched that I got an opportunity to speak with him live like this. And he is a pioneer in GXP. But I found out after the podcast that he keeps Gita close to his heart and teaches the same to students and to youngsters like us. So we are going to follow him. And if you guys want to get in touch with him, you can go to LinkedIn, you can follow him. You can even put down comments below in the podcast and try to reach him and make him our guru. Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for being present. And it is really overwhelming. Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Namaste.
Thank you, sir.